This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
Ben Settle, compulsively punchable.
He's the kind of guy who you'd probably just punch on the arm really hard if you ever met him.
Worshipped by feminists.
He pokes fun at feminism and women, just joking around, his whole sandwich making thing.
Mildly inspiring.
Yes, I recommend the Ben Settle Show, and anybody who isn't on it, that's their own loss.
Somewhat authentic.
Ben is a very distinct personality. There's no fluff. I can't stand fluff.
Syrupy sweet.
Tells it like it is, and sometimes may not be the most polite manner, shall we say.
Kind of useful.
So I have spent tens of thousands of dollars on coaching and masterminds, and I've learned more from Ben Settle's podcast than from any of that.
Semi-intelligent.
Ben sounds like a crazy guy at times, but he's one of the smartest individuals in marketing I've ever met.
Mostly forgettable.
He's always in the forefront of my mind.
The BenSettle.com podcast begins now.
This is Ben Settle, the BenSettle.com podcast, and as promised last week, I want to talk about a very toxic, not necessarily a toxic whiteness thing, but a toxic thing that goes on in the world. And it's not just business, Jonathan. What I'm about to say, it can permeate through all aspects of a person's life. And it can be so prominent and just happen so often, people don't even realize it's going on. It's kind of like someone who is living with a lot of pain, right? Like maybe they're just in a pain all the time and they just get used to it and they forgot what it's like. They don't even notice it as much anymore because it's just a part of their life. This is something that happens to a lot of people. And I suspect there'd be a lot of people who respond to this particular episode with saying, yeah, Ben, that's actually been going on with me. And I would be happy to hear back from anyone who doesn't guarantee I'm going to write you back, by the way. John, I gotta say something here. So I'm just not a small talk guy. There's people I've known for years in this business who email me stuff and I'm glad they did it. It's not like they wasted my time, but I don't have anything to say back. I'm not going to engage in small talk. So don't take it personally. I ignore Jonathan half the time he emails me.
Thank goodness, because they're drunk emails.
I don't ignore Cupcake because usually she has something worth hearing. But most people, no. They just unless they have a very specific question for me that is relevant to everything, they're not just doing it just to try to get quote or unquote engagement. That's the big thing, right? An engagement. You probably won't hear back. It doesn't mean I didn't read your email. It doesn't mean I don't like you, although chances are I don't like you because you're people.
Yeah.
Jonathan, I will say this. I don't like people, but I do like persons. So like dealing with people one-on-one and all that, actually, I don't have a problem with that. So back to the thing. So many years ago when I first got into the golf niche the first time, there was the guy who was the golf guru there. He did an interesting video I'll never forget. And this is back before I even really played golf. I was still just kind of learning the market and everything. It was really early on in my journeys in the golf market. But I remember the first time I heard it, yep, this applies to business as much as it does golf. It applies to anything. It applies to you if you're trying to do anything worth doing in life. And I don't care if it's trying to get better at something, a game, or if it's doing a business or whatever. It does not matter. This will always happen. And he did this video on what he called gamesmanship. And this is, for example, in the golf world, it's like you're playing golf with your buddy or somebody, and they just make these little remarks to try to bring you down. They could be passive aggressive or they could be aggressive. They could be very obvious or they may not be obvious, but they're designed to kind of get in your head and screw with your head. And they don't even necessarily know they're doing it either. It may not even be done maliciously, but it's going on because they're jealous or they're just being jerks or whatever the case may be. Or maybe they're just trying to bust your balls. It doesn't matter. It's all gamesmanship and it gets in your head. Obviously, this happens in the marketing world as well. And business in general, it happens all the freaking time. And I mean, just think back to all the people who have made these stupid little remarks, just trying to bring you down, just trying to bring you down a notch to their level where they're at, down on the floor in the mud, because you're trying to actually get up out of the mud. And, they don't like that. I like the old crab analogy. Put a bunch of crabs in a bucket and one tries to climb out. The other crabs try to bring it back in. They don't want it to leave. And so some real life some examples that just off the top of my head here. I say these are off the top of my head, Jonathan, but I actually have little notes here. So I guess that's not exactly true. This is back probably about, I don't know, I guess 16, 17 years ago. This was before I got into direct marketing. I was in the MLM world, and there's a family member of mine who I will not say who it was. And she, she works in like the financial world and all that. And, she heard what I was doing and she's like, oh, that's so cute.
Cute?
Because I was like in MLM or whatever, right? Like I'm trying to do something. I'm not saying I'm good at this stuff, but at least I'm trying, right? I at least took the gateway drug to entrepreneurialism, which is MLM, and was trying to do something. And she just like belittled the whole thing. Oh, that's so cute. Or does this work for you? And all this stuff. She could just say I'm not interested, right? But she has to be kind of a jerk about it. And did she do it maliciously? No. But over the months, I would keep getting these little comments and everything. And so she wasn't doing it maliciously. But she was doing it, and it was gamesmanship. She was trying to bring me down. Now, this is someone who is miserable in her career, I should add, too. So that's what she's trying to bring me down at. The fact that I'm actually excited by something, if you're excited by something and you go around people who are not excited by their lives or anything, they are going to try to bring you down in some way, shape, or form. And just expect it. It's normal. It means you're probably doing something right. It's not something to escape from. It's not something to worry about. If anything, it's like a barometer. It's like you're doing good. You're going in the right direction, as Jonathan and I would say.
Yeah. To add to that, Ben, it's also telling you which direction to head for. Like, get the hell away from these people.
Yeah. I mean, do you want to go in the direction of the miserable person? I don't. Yeah. I mean, so there's an email player subscriber who, I don't know if this person probably doesn't want me naming them, so I'm not going to. Jonathan, I'm not going to name names.
Please do.
And usually when I name names, I'll name their name anyway. When I say I'm not going to name names, but I'm really not going to name names.
And then you mispronounce it.
I mispronounce. Well, I'm not even giving the gender of this person. That's how much I'm going to hide this. The privacy and the respect of my email player subscribers must be protected at all times, and so it is. But this person is a copywriter / coach and consultant and, does a lot of things actually, in addition to writing emails and all that. And this person has a friend who, whenever the email player subscriber tries to tell their friend like what's going on and like some cool ideas and, some things this person's experiencing, success especially, the friend who's also in a very similar business has to one up this person. Like just ignores everything they just said and says, well, I do better. Yeah, here's what I do, or, well, this person will tell their friend, I just landed this really big client. And so that person like, well, you see the client I just got, like they can't just be happy for them, the friend, they have to like one up them. And this is a form of gamesmanship because it gets in the person I'm talking about, the email player subscriber, it gets in this person's head when their friend does this. And is their friend doing it maliciously? No, not at all. I mean, from what I can tell, no. I mean, it doesn't seem like it to me, at least. It's just, you call it insecurity if you want. You can call it could be any number of things. But these are the kind of things that cause gamesmanship. When someone's trying to one-up you constantly, and they always have to have a bigger story than you, that's a form of gamesmanship. It's designed, whether by design, they're doing it on purpose or whatever, the effect is it's going to get in your head and it's going to piss you off and it may throw you off your game a little bit. Thus, the word gamesmanship. Does this man, Jonathan, this has got to have happened to you at least once in your life. I can't be the only one.
Come on. You're talking about trash talking. Like when we play racquetball and stuff like that. Oh yeah, that goes on in the court for sure.
Hell yeah. And that's like overt, right? Like that.
Yeah.
But if you had it insidiously done to you, like for example, in your business, have you had friends who just have to have you ever had a one-up friend like that? Like they have to one-up everything they do to you that you do?
I've known one or two people like that.
I mean, besides Cupcake, we know she does that. We know she's trying to knock you down.
That's right.
She needs to keep you humble. But I mean, seriously, and family members, they all do it, right? They all do it until you become successful. Then suddenly they're all like, "Oh, I always believed in you. I always knew you'd do good," right? They always were there for you and everything when they were never there. They were there just to one up you or to belittle what you're doing and that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
that's another one. Now, and this is purely business. And you'll see this happen you can see this happen in any number of ways, but other business people who are basically telling you your idea won't work. You tell them an idea and the first thing they say, no, here's why. And I'll give you a perfect example. When I launched Email Players 6 years ago, it's been 6 years since this baby's been up. Yeah, we're coming up on over almost 75 issues without missing a month, I might add. But when I first started it, there was more than a few people. And these were people who were not being malicious in any way, shape, or form. They're friends of mine in some cases. And, they weren't being malicious and they weren't just trying to be, they weren't just trying to be like helpful either, though. They something happened viscerally in their gut that made them want to try to no, that can't work. Nobody's going to want to hear about that. It's a disconnect. Why would you do a print newsletter about email? That sort of thing. And, none of it's malicious, but it is games. It was like the effect was to try to get into my head. Now, they may have been even doing it out of trying to help me, for all I know. But I knew that they were wrong. And it helps to have a certain level of stubbornness, Jonathan.
No kidding.
It helps to have as Dan Kennedy says, it helps to walk around with a sense of preferably private, he says, sense of superiority. And, I have no problem with that at all. And call it toxic whiteness, call it whatever you want. Toxic.
I'm Ben Siddle. I approve that message.
Call it whatever you want. But, it helps to go around just knowing what you have an idea. You just go ahead and see what happens. It doesn't mean you can't let it go later. Jonathan, I still get this. There's this one idiot on my list. I forget his name. I would name his name if I can remember it, but I just can't remember. And he likes to bring up every now and then. Like, for some reason, he thinks I'm not allowed to make, do things that don't work. I don't even say mistakes. They're just results, right? He's still, once in a while, I still hear from this moron, hey, your paid podcast failed. I said, oh,
really?
My God. No, I have to dispel this horse shit once more. If anything, it was too successful, right?
Yeah.
You, me, and Misty know this as well. And Cupcake knows this well. She was surprised we wanted to end it. But it wasn't a failure at all. That was the problem. I almost wish it had just failed. It would have been easier to let it go. But it wasn't. But the fact that this guy's still trying to gamesmanship me because he has nothing else. I guarantee you this guy is a failure in every possible way, sees what I'm doing, like my daily emails and all this, gets jealous instead of wanting to do better, instead of wanting to appreciate. And he wants to hate instead of appreciate, as the saying goes.
Congratulate.
And so it is. I'd rather just congratulate, Yeah. But it's. I hear from this now. This is an attempt at gamesmanship. It doesn't work on me because I already know I don't have anything to hide and I have nothing to prove. But to someone who's just starting out and they're going through all the trials and tribulations of trying to start a business and things aren't, it can really affect them. And it certainly did when I was getting started. And so I'm here to tell you, listeners, the little people, my toxic tallness. And I'm actually kind of short, Jonathan. I don't know if you remember when we hung out, but
we're like the same height, so I don't consider you short.
I was going to say, you're pretty short too, now that I think about it. So when I say little people, I mean that in a belittling way, not like physical way, but belittling. I'm just belittling you. That's all I'm doing. All right. But not physically belittling you. Physically, I'm probably much smaller than I was. I should probably just shut up while I'm ahead. All right. So okay. So you see it in business. You see it on social media, obviously. My God, just follow any prominent marketer or internet marketer, copywriter. And when they just watch the comments, watch how they all are know-it-alls. They all are trying to prove to themselves, to the guru, that they're smart, and they always try to belittle other people's ideas and stuff. That won't work. These people are unethical, blah, blah, blah. It's just pure gamesmanship. I see it all the time. The question now is, what do you do about it? Now, let's say you're in this position, Jonathan. Let's take young producer Jonathan, back before he was successful at anything, still struggling to build your property business, rental business, and all that. What do you do about it? And somebody's trying to gamesmanship you, and it's starting to get to you. It's getting in your head. What do you do about it? Well, the first thing you do is you don't try to suppress the anger. Okay. When that anger flares up, there's a reason for it. It's getting you in the gut. You use that anger. That energy is powerful. It will give you focus. It will give you energy. It'll give you the drive to stay up later and get up earlier and just keep going when other people would stop. So, and the anger won't last forever. Especially as you start to see success, the anger goes away and it turns into amusement, like what I have now. I want that anger, but I wish I could get angry at this. I don't. I just get amused by it. It just amuses me. But use that anger, okay? When you turn into the Hulk, you got to start breaking things. Don't just sit there and turn back into Banner again. Don't try to suppress it. Let your eyes get green and turn into the Hulk. So that's one thing. You can also ignore it if you want, although to me, this is not as good of an idea as using the anger. But you can, ignoring people, Jonathan, this is a fact. When you ignore someone who's trying to get your attention, who needs your attention, because they feed off your attention, ignoring them basically affects the same part of their brain as physical pain. I don't know if you realize that or not, but this is why the silent treatment actually works. That's why I know people are going to get mad at me for saying that. It does. I cut people out who piss me off. And if I see any drama queen or any bull crap going on, I ignore and I never talk to them again. And Jonathan, I have people who for months have been trying to get my attention in multiple different ways, and they cannot believe I'm ignoring them.
Wow.
And I don't, but they should, because, people like that are used to people wanting to fight them and argue and feed their incessant need for drama and attention. I just won't do it. I won't do it, Jonathan. I'd rather just say it's much easier for me to ignore them, and it gives me much pleasure to ignore them, knowing that it's hurting them in the brain the same way physical pain does. And then finally, what else you can, and this is something I wish I had done. So let's go back to El Bembo when, his family member was screwing with him. And this is when you take you take a page from the pickup artist industry. Whenever a girl gives them like is bitchy to them and like accuses them of something, they do what's called agree and amplify. In other words, you don't try to deny it, whatever you're being accused of, you just literally go with it. Okay. So take the toxic whiteness thing. I just have fun with it now. Like if someone accused me of it, I would actually ratchet it up a little bit more. I would just keep going. I would agree. Yeah. And it's actually worse than what you're thinking. Because it makes them look silly for even bringing up the stupid thing in the first place. So like the pickup artist people, for example, I'm just trying to think of an example. I remember seeing, oh, I bet you've had sex with lots of girls. And or they'll say, how many girls have you had sex with? And, she's trying to test him. Because, if he says so many, he's going to sound like he's a man whore. If he says, well, none, he's going to sound like he can't get a girl. So the smart guy will say, well, you mean today? You mean in the last hour? I don't know, a couple hundred, right? So you agree and you amplify. And it just makes the question and the accusation look silly. Well, you can do that with gamesmanship too. Whenever someone screws with you, agree and amplify. All right, that's it for today, Jonathan. That's all I got. I'm not going to sit here and natter around about this anymore. I think the point is clear. And next week, I'm going to get into copywriting a little bit more because people want to know copywriting. For some reason, I don't know why. They want me to teach more copywriting and writing stuff. So I'm going to teach people, even though I'm a principles versus tactics guy, Jonathan, I'm going to teach how to create your own copywriting tactics. And it's something that I've never heard anyone but talk about until I've talked about it once in a video. And I think it's going to give people a nice different perspective on knowing their craft and how to approach it. So that'll be next week.
Looking forward to it. So another bensettle.com podcast is wrapped up. We'll be back in your earbuds next time. Thanks for tuning in.
You've been listening to the bensettle.com podcast. To get your hands on a free issue of Ben Settle's prestigious $97 per month email player's newsletter, simply go to www.bensettle.com.
This is the podcastfactory.com.